So I want to catch you up. I've got some things to say on here from our shame thing, but I just felt so impressed this week to kind of publicly apologize and to reset our focus here as a church. We have probably in the last couple of years, especially, we've made some declarations on behalf of some disenfranchised people in culture in our community and around the state. We have stood up for some people that the church has normally rejected, which has kind of always been our thing as a church. And but I believe at times that I, your pastor, have made a mistake where I've engaged with people and trying to prove to them, trying to beat back what I felt were some very dark and angry and mean-spirited things. But I've done it by pointing out how mean they are and how terrible what they're saying is. And I've gotten caught up at times in arguing, albeit from the right. I've done it from what I feel like are the right motives, but I definitely have executed it poorly at times. And this past week, we had an opportunity to kind of begin to change the culture of how we're going to move forward with the message of the gospel as far as our church is concerned. And if you didn't see it a couple of weeks ago, about 3.5 weeks ago, another pastor in the community, there's no judgment upon him or his people or anything like that, but a pastor in this community, I believe, he made some statements that we felt like were potentially harmful to children in our community, to families in our community. And it felt hateful. It felt a lot of things that I'm not going to go into. But there was an outcry from people in our community, and their outcry was this: where are the people in the faith community that will stand up and balance or offer a different perspective? I had people send me Facebook messages and say, hey, people that don't go to church, people that aren't a part of church culture, people that wouldn't consider themselves even Christians, who reached out to me and just said, hey, will you please do something about this? Someone wrote me word for word, Pastor Dan, this is not good. In other words, like, what's going on with your people? Will you do something? And so I talked it over with my family and on the family group, and I got together with my brother Jim, and we sat down and we wrote a 3-minute, essentially a 3-minute school board statement that I could make publicly in the same forum that these comments were made. And we went there, and there's people from the community that were there supporting us. One of the board members and someone who helped found a project here in Sarasota was there, and we connected with a bunch of other people that were there that were upset about what was said weeks earlier. I had some private conversations with our school board a couple of the school board administrators, let me be very clear, administrators that were there before the meeting started, who essentially said, please, please, please do something. We were shocked. We were so saddened and shocked that this would happen in the chambers of our school board, this kind of hatred. And I said, well, I'm here to hopefully bring at least some healing and some semblance of an idea that Christianity is not full of people that are angry and hateful, that we actually are and were birthed from the greatest act of love that the world has ever seen. So I made a statement on behalf of kind of myself, of course, our family and our church. And it's obviously a lot of people have responded positively to it. A couple people have responded negatively, but I learned something in that, because my message there at the school board, I may not even preach my message, and that's okay, because I have some things I think are important for us to know. But my message there at the school board was simply one of, not let me show you how wrong the other person is. Now, I have not always done it that way. Look, before I tell you the right way, let me tell you how wrong you are. Anyone ever get caught up in that? Come on. But I got an opportunity to go to that meeting and simply say to the school board, to the administrators, to the teachers, with the great help of my brother who helped me kind of assemble what that would look like, because he's been a teacher for over 20 years. My mother was a teacher. My grandfather was a teacher. And we come from a lot of people that value education and value investing their lives into the next generation. I think that's a good thing, amen? Come on. How many of you had a teacher at some point in your life that positively impacted where you are today, right? We can't always say that about a mom and dad, right? But we have a teacher who changes maybe the course of history in our life in a way that is profound even to this day. And so we simply went there and we just simply said, we love you. We pray a blessing upon you. We thank you for everything you've done to sow into lives, whether the decisions that have been made in the last couple of years especially are good or bad. We simply want to say you have been faithful. You have taken the most horrific. Some of these people are afraid for their life on our school board because their lives have been so threatened. And the people threatening their lives oftentimes are doing it in the name of God. Come on. And so we went there and we simply said, you know what? We love you. We're sorry this happened. We apologize. And let us tell you who God actually is. Let us tell you what it looks like for us to come together as a community. In other words, let me speak everything that we believe God is saying and asking for us to do and be as a church. And let's not give any more time or breath to things that are tearing down, come on, dividing us, keeping us separate from one another. Come on. And I got to thinking about the Cross Church this week. I got so fired up. I was by myself in my house. I got so fired up that I was like, I was talking to the walls. I was preaching to I was so fired up because I got this revelation. I said, Dan, you have been doing it wrong. You've been doing it wrong. And I'm like, well, have I been doing it wrong? I hate to admit that. I said, you've been doing it wrong. It's not time to get down in the mud with people who want to go there and be nasty. Church, we are going to start a movement where what we are going to declare, we're going to ignore the hate. Come on. We're going to ignore the hate. We're just going to be like, I'm sorry, what? Hate. I'm sorry, did you say you're hungry? You ate? Sorry, what? Hate. Oh, okay, that's nice. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I like that shirt. No, we're gonna ignore the hate and we are gonna put our time and energy into something because I believe this more than anything. You might see my shirt today and I got another one that KK literally on her way out of town made for me. She made this too. And this is what I believe, that we actually don't have to condemn the hate. We actually don't have to give the hate, Rob, any more amplification and any more time because hate and bigotry and vitriol and division and putting people down and separating people into categories and all of that deserves zero airtime. On social media, in our minds, in our hearts, on TV. Come on. We're not going to address that, deal with it. You know why? We don't have to beat back the hate because this. If you can't see it in the back, it says love is louder. Do you know when the greatest moment in the history of the world was not God denouncing hate? It was God speaking love. Do you know when humanity changed forever? It's when the declaration of the greatest love the world had ever seen. Love actually, in and of itself, conquers the hate. We don't have to conquer the hate and then show everyone how much we love them. We can let the hate be conquered by the overwhelming love of God flowing through us. Come on. And sometimes we don't know what to do because we know something's off and we should speak up, but we don't know what to say. And I'm telling you, church, we're going to start a movement where every time we're going to hold our community accountable. And every time somebody sends a report in of something hateful done that we believe people are being hurt, people are being shamed, people are being torn apart, one of us, it doesn't have to be me, one of us is going to show up. We're going to act like it never happened. And we're just going to love and we're 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 going to bring the message of the good news that God loves. He's for us. He is compassionate. His grace is sufficient. We're going to overcome every word of hate with love. I was thinking about this. If you think about the cross, it was like, For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believe in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. That statement in and of itself gives hate zero airtime. You know how you empower wicked things? Talk about them. Whether you're for them or against them, just simply giving them airtime empowers it. No more. What happens in your personal life if you got like, a sister that ticked you off, and that, which never happens to me. I don't know why. God, that was a Freudian slip. What happens if you have a sibling that ticks you off, right? What happens? Call your other sibling on the phone. You're like, not going to believe what happened. They did this and they did this. At the end of it, does that thing that might have been wrong, might have been bad, does that thing feel more powerful or less powerful in your mind and your emotions? About, it's probably been 3 or 4 years ago. I was with a pastor friend of mine in New York City, a church up there that I would speak at occasionally. My dad would speak at occasionally. And he was real sick, and he had some terrible back stuff going on, and was literally laid up like 20 hours a day in excruciating pain, and nothing would help it. Or he didn't know his back was going to go out right before I got there. And I showed up, and he was like, "Hey, I don't know if I can go, hang out with you for a couple days in New York City before," because he had services on Friday and he had services on Sunday at different locations. And so I'd usually get there on Thursday and leave on Monday. And so on Saturday or in between, we'd get a chance to go do something in New York City. He said, "I don't know if I can do it." And he said, "Are you okay, like navigating the city?" And I was like, "So you're turning me loose in New York City by myself?" He's like, "Yep." I'm like, "Wonderful." So, so I took off on the subway systems. I'll never forget, I was in a subway, and there was a guy there that was by the subway line, and he said, "Is this going uptown or downtown, this train?" And there was another guy who said, "Oh, this one is going downtown." And he was wrong. And the sign there said uptown. And so I was like, "Oh, he's going to get on the wrong train here, like." And but the guy, he had earphones on. He was kind of looked a little bit like he was in a bad place. Looked very anxious. Looked just like there was a lot of kind of contention and maybe some anger in his heart. And he was just kind of like, "No, it's going uptown," or whatever. And I said real quick, I think actually this one's going downtown, like this. And he looked over at me and he said, "You think I'm stupid? Everybody in my life thinks I'm stupid." And he started coming at me and yelling and saying things I won't say. And and cussing and swearing, getting real aggressive with me. And man, I was like, "Me, little boy from Sarasota." No, I said, so there was this very impending, what I felt like was going to be a deal. And instinctually, I wanted to, believe it or not, even though it probably wouldn't have ended up good for me, I wanted to go. I was like, I wanted to be like, "You're the moron who was sending this guy on the wrong train." And I politely tried to help him out, And it's funny because the guy that was in the middle of it was kind of like, in that moment, he's like, "Thank you both for your help." He's like, no one get thrown on the tracks here, And that was my initial response. And church, listen to me. If you can just take a breath, because I promise you that in the next week, in the next month, there's going to be stuff done and stuff said that is going to set you and me off. And we are going to want to righteously tell the other people how they are out of place and what they have done wrong and where they have made their mistakes. And then maybe at the end, slap them with a little love. Something clicked in my brain. I said, "Wait a second. Did I hear him say, everybody thinks I'm stupid?" Did I hear him mumble to himself something about my whole life? And I thought, how much trauma has that man been through that he would snap that quickly at the idea that somebody was suggesting that he didn't know something? I started picturing this guy at 6 years old, maybe with his father or mother with their finger in his face telling him, why'd you get that D? You're so stupid, you're never gonna make it through school. I started picturing him, maybe getting fired from a job because he didn't make the right change. And the owner saying, don't ever come back in here, you're never gonna be hired anywhere. My dad over here got kicked out of Bible college and told that he would never amount to anything by the Bible college school president. You don't know what that person has been through to get them to a point. But if we will look at people and situations and things that we believe could potentially be is wrong and the person has messed up and they deserve to be corrected and put in their place, and all, if we can look at that situation and say, what would it look like to look through the lens of love in this moment and be love and light, not correction? Darkness has never been corrected. Darkness is not driven out by the admission that it's dark. Darkness is driven out by light. Stephen, I'm retitling this message. It's called Opposite Spirit Gear. You'll understand in a moment. Years ago, my brother and I were at a conference, and it was a youth conference, and there was like 600 kids, teenagers. If you've ever been to a Christian youth conference with teenagers, we were in one time where they got up. This is not that long ago, so all the kids had cell phones, and one of them said, I feel like some of you are struggling with pornography, this prophetic guy. I looked at my brother Jim, I said, what would be prophetic is to tell us who in the room isn't struggling with pornography. That's not prophetic, that's obvious. They're teenagers. This guy had a prophetic word from heaven that in 600 teenagers, a couple of them might be dealing with pornography. Oh my gosh. And so, but no, we were at this conference and this prophetic guy, quote unquote, was up there and he was railing on these kids, just baiting them down and grinding their face into the dirt. Is this okay that I'm doing a little different today? Is that all right? And he's just grinding their face into these kids. You could just see them, like these kids are like, and then he got them so worked up and so full of shame and so full of self-hatred. And they just felt like garbage, And you could just tell, he called out every sin in the book. And you could see, little Johnny in the front row was like, bingo. Did that one, right? And he's like, and then this. And he's like, yep, did that one yesterday. And then another one, yeah. And you could just see their little spirits just get smaller and shrink down tinier. And then they found themselves at the altar. Uncle Dave, I know you might have been in a couple of these before. And maybe not you, but, and they got themselves at the altar and they're just wailing like kids that have lost their mother in shame and agony of how unworthy and disgusting they are, right? Because they're attracted to somebody. Okay? Y'all remember when you were teenagers? Come on. Anybody watch the fuzzy HBO hoping for a break? I didn't, Mom. Come on. Desperate to kind of understand how this whole thing works? It's normal. Their hormones are raging, right? And these kids are they feel like complete and utter garbage, right? And they're at the front row. And he's railing on them. You think you're gonna just get to heaven just because of this and that? No, you need to get every sick thing out of you. You need to get holy and righteous for it. And he's just grinding. These kids are wailing and crying. And we're in the back, and he calls for the worship team to come out. Y'all, the worship team was us. And the guy that we were with, who's a worship leader, if I said his name, you'd know him, but I'm not gonna say it. And because he's a punk. Anyways, but no, I'm just kidding. We were in the back, and he just looks at all of us and he goes, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna sing songs about how good God is. how loving he is, right? Not this like minor chord, like warfare, like we're gonna drive every last bit of, of garbage out of your heart, soul, and mind. No, he's like, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna, hey guys, we're gonna do the opposite. And one of the guitar players, he's this super hippie indie kid from Seattle, Washington, California area. His name is Steven. Steven just looks at us. He rarely says a word. He's got a big beard. He's brilliant, but he's like just quiet and brilliant, one of these introverted just geniuses. And he's sitting there and he just goes like this, opposite spirit gear. And we went out there and he got on the microphone and this guy's like, cry out to God, cry out to God. And you could just tell he wants us to get up there and play those warfare chords, And the worship leader that we were playing with, he got up there and he goes, oh, Father, you're so good and loving. Oh, you just love us so much. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. And we're loved by you. It's who we are. He just started doing that. Real soft, too. Not like warfare, bashing cymbals, get the evil out of these kids. Just real. And you could see the atmosphere of the room change. That prophet, I use that term loosely, he went just like this. He's like, we're like, try us. I realized something in that moment. The world is not looking for more condemnation, more hate. They do not want to see us as the church fighting with some other church because they've gone off the rails or whatever else. They don't want to see us fighting amongst each other no matter how much we love, no matter how right we are, they don't want to see any of that. They want to see who will rise above the nonsense, the hatred, the vitriol, the division, all the things I've mentioned. Who will rise above it and declare a message that is greater than this? Who will not get stuck in the mud? Who will not get on that level? Who will rise above it and say, you know what, I don't know what's going on over there, and y'all can deal with that. But we want to tell you how much we support you and how much we love you and how much you've done for our community and how we are believing for you and praying for you and how we bless you today. Come on. So I want to end today, if we can. Maybe I'll do the rest of the shame stuff next week because it goes right along with this. I'm going to end today. I didn't even cue the guys to do this because, like I said, I was going to preach this other entire message, but I felt it necessary to do that today. I'm just going to play for you today what I said, and I want to get better as a church community. I might make a couple more of these shirts. Might have KK do it if any of you are interested. And if we end up having to charge for them, it'll be just to cover the cost of this. And if you want to make a donation beyond that, we'll take that money and put it right back into the school system to help some kids. How does that sound? And I want to pull this up for you because I want you to kind of hear what I believe that God's calling us to do together. Yes. Explain my shirt. My shirt says, are you throwing stones or are you catching them? I believe that we have two choices in life. Will we catch the stones being thrown at the clear, in the case of the woman caught in adultery, she was probably at some point on her knees, shielding her head, her body, her face. Y'all, when they stoned people back then, they didn't use pebbles from the driveway. They picked up a stone about as heavy as they could and still throw it. And for most of those men who probably did manual labor type jobs at some point in their life, they're chucking some big stones that could quickly and easily break a bone and worse. And they would throw them until somebody either was within an inch of their life or dead. And I believe that we have two options in life. One of them is not to stand on the sideline and be like, look who's throwing the stones. Do you hear that in my message today? Everybody, look at the stone thrower. He's a bad guy. You shouldn't be throwing stones. We have two choices. You're either throwing stones or you're catching them. You're either the one lobbing the stones. You no good. How dare you? You're caught in adultery again. You've backslidden again. You've gotten high again. You got fired from another job. You stole again. You thief. You no good. You're either throwing them or you're standing there saying, you know what? I'm willing to get beat up a little bit, but I'm not going to stand by and watch this person get hit with stones. Y'all, if we do this together, if we begin to change what Sarasota looks like, Miss Carolyn, tell the group here, if you don't mind, is Sarasota desperate for somebody to stand up and unite and quit the division? She is the former mayor of the city of Sarasota. She knows, she's seeing it out there. I can't do it on my own, nor do I want to. I'm not telling you you're not going to get hit by a couple stones, but we're going to save a lot of precious lives if we'll stand up and defend people. Come on.
County, a father of two girls that attend school in this district, and I've been the pastor of Harvest Church for the last 12 years. I recently saw an address 2 weeks ago made by another pastor in the community to the school board and immediately knew I needed to attend the next meeting and offer a rebuttal of sorts to the hatred and vitriol that has been aimed at you and the courageous teachers of Sarasota County. I want my kids to learn the good, the bad, and the ugly of history of our nation and the struggles of the marginalized. Don't be bullied into hiding the atrocities of Stonewall Inn or the landmark legislation like the Anti-Hate Crime Matthew Shepard Act. NBC News reported in April this year that 1 in every 3 gay and bisexual youths have attempted suicide and are almost 5 times as likely to attempt suicide as their straight peers. I am deeply saddened and shocked that just 2 weeks ago, a colleague of mine would publicly shame LGBTQ youth in the name of God. Although it sounds naive, I hope to kindly but clearly come against such angry rhetoric and maybe heal some of the hearts of those that were hurt by the words that were reverberated in this very chamber. I believe that as a leader in the faith community, I must stand up and defend our kids from homophobic rants uttered from those whose lips are sore from sounding the dog whistle. If I learned anything as a pastor, it is that Jesus always hangs out with the marginalized, the hurting, and the unwelcome. And on behalf of the faith community, I want to offer my sincere apology to the students, teachers, and school board members that have had to endure endless grandstanding of so-called faith leaders. And I want to say that you are respected, you are loved, and you are appreciated, and I pray a blessing on each and every one of you. No one deserves to be yelled at the way you've been yelled at and treated with the disrespect that has been directed to each of you. Today, I challenge the faith community to speak life, to show respect for our community leaders, and to lead with love and to stand as a light in dark times. I am proud to be the younger brother of Dr. James Miner, who's the IB coordinator at Riverview High School. And he recently, in light of all the negativity, formed a Facebook group called We Love Sarasota County Schools. And in a very, very short period of time, they have over 1,500 followers. I challenge every pastor in our community with this question: are you throwing stones or are you catching them? We must be determined to find ourselves on the right side of history and the right side of the line in the sand, and we must make sure that we protect all of the vulnerable in our community. Thank you. Keep up the good fight, and we love you, Madam Chair, and we'll miss you.
Thank you. Michelle Rivas.
We got to end today, but I want to tell you this. I feel real strongly today that we need your help. It's not to further some agenda, it's simply to look out for people that are getting beat up on, no matter who they are, where they come from, what's going on in their life, It's to look out for people that are getting beat up on. And Rob, between me and you, we can catch a lot of stones. And to catch the stones being thrown at them, especially if one of our own faith community members is the one hurling them. We need to stand up and love people. And there is a cost, but we're willing to pay it. Church, do you realize that we have the opportunity to not just be a part of, but to start a movement in our community where the faith community is no longer being sucked into some partisan thing, that we're no longer allowing politics and division of its sort to control one way or the other, that we won't allow ourselves to be, we're going to stick up for these people, we're not going to stick up for these people. Do you realize that we can start a trend in our community where above politics, above local banter, above prejudice, above all of the stuff that seems to be at play here, that we could rise above all of that, starting here in this place, in this church at 3650 17th Street. We can get fired up about being really the police of our community, where anyone who's getting beat up, we're going to go stand with them. But did you hear that well, yeah. But what about this lady? She's been caught in adultery. Yeah. You know what Jesus said? And I don't believe the people I'm talking about today are the least of these. But he said, what you've done unto the least of these, you've done unto me. Which means from the least to the greatest and everything in between, we are called to stand with them, to love them, to protect them. Come on. You want to minister, listen to me, you want to minister to the body of Jesus? Go find somebody that everybody has thrown away and stand with them. Come on, you want to worship the King of Kings? You worship the King of Kings by loving somebody who's been beat up on. You want to be what we like to describe as an active Christian in our community. It's not what we put on Facebook. It's not what we say. It's not what quote we share. It's not what t-shirt we wear. It's none of that. You know what it is? It's, are you willing to catch the stones? Or are you going to stand by and watch people throw them, or even worse, throw them ourselves? And church, as we stand up together, come on, let's stand up. As we stand together, I want to determine in our hearts that we will catch the stones, that we're willing to be hit by a couple, but we will not let innocent people in our community, come on, get beat up while we stand by and go, man, I wish that wasn't happening. At some point, church, we have got to decide in ourselves and within us, there's something inside of us that compels us and fires us up enough to say, we will stand up and we will not allow this to happen in our community. We can talk about what's happening nationwide, but if in our community people are getting beat down, shamed, come on, threatened, especially in the name of God, we have to say enough is enough. We're going to show you the love of the Father, and it will overcome and speak louder than any hate. Come on, church. I know we're late and we got to finish. It's 11:19. We're supposed to start the other service 4 minutes ago, but I wanted you to hear that. We love you. We bless you. I want you to look at your neighbor and say, it's time to catch some stones. Come on, look at the person next to you on the other side and say, it's time to catch some stones. Hey, listen, church, I'm going to tell the next group this. If you find out about anything in our community going on where somebody is being beat up, you sound the alarm and we will get somebody there. And we're not going to go and tell them how wrong they are. We're going to tell them, come on, we're going to love and we're going to pour the love of Jesus on them. Amen? All right, we love you. Bless you.